David, this second?
Very good, yeah. And the students that use Q&A, the Q&A function, you'll see it there.
That's literally what I was just saying. So we're both on the ball.
Happy days.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Thanks a million.
You have fun. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so I don't know if the reactions work, guys. If you want to give me a thumbs up to let me know you can hear me, that would be really cool. But I don't even know if, oh, they do work. And yeah, perfect. Great. Thank you very much. Okay, so you have a chat function. You're welcome to jump in there and have a look. This class is recorded, so you will have access to it moving on. So Mar Dortme Mishanula, and I teach honours level leaving certificate here in the Institute. I do online classes and I do face-to-face on Saturdays and whatnot. And I'm at this a very, very, very long time. What I will say is it is challenging to deal with fifth years in the base that all your teachers are looking for something slightly different. So I am going to give you the broadest overview that I can. And I would love any questions if you're looking for specific answers. So today in the notes, so you should have access to the notes somewhere. I think they're put up, sent out to your, or put up on the emails you received. So we're going to look at all the poems in one aspect and what to do with the poems. We are then going to look at the prose, so the stories that you have to do, and then we're going to look at an essay on how to reduce your work and how to get an essay style put together to make life easier for yourselves. Okay, so that's the three main things we're going to look at, because they're the three main things that students will be asked. You may have a tape exam. You may have tape. I am old school. You may have a clús-tuiscint, a listening exam, and you might have a léamh huiscintí either on top of that. So they are the 5 things that. And then the oral, if you're asked that. So we're just going to focus on the broader understanding of the poem stories and the essays, but I will answer any questions in relation to any of the other pieces. Every teacher is going to be looking for something slightly different, and this is the challenge. But what I can promise you is the leaving certificate exam corrections and what's needed there are streamlined. There is no doubt. There is no, well, this teacher wants this and this teacher wants that. It's not like that. It is set in stone and there's no getting around it. So that hopefully will make things a little bit easier moving forward. So get rid of any nuances. So the Filiocht is the poetry, and we have 5 poems that are covered. Most fifth years will cover these. Most students will cover all. Teachers will cover these all during fifth year. But what I want you to see is I've gone through the papers since this course was introduced in 2010. And I've gone through and analysed all the papers. And from my analysis, what I can see and what I can tell you is that the poems come in 3 questions. Okay, there's always question 1, which is your long one, and then the middle question 2 is quite short, and middle question 3 is a little bit longer. Question 1 for all your poems will always be the same. And by the same, I mean they will use different words, but they're actually looking for the same information. So it doesn't matter. Your exams, your fifth year exams will come from past papers. That is set in stone. That's what all teachers do. So you can be whatever poems that you have recently done would be the 1 or 2 would be on your end of year exams. So this is advice for now and for the leaving certificate. You want to answer the question based always. You start off by saying, I studied the poem. Rinne mé staidir an dawn, Gavin, Colscar, whatever. Then add in the theme. Is a whatever. Love, hate, lying in captivity, anger, téma an dawn. The third sentence then you would add in is, I see the theme through. Fecum an téma trí. T-R-I father. Once you have those, and then you say, what do you see it through? Well, every poem has got images. So you always say, Fecum an téma trí na Theamhna. In relation to Gavin and Colscar, we also have contrast. So, Fecum an téma trí na Theamhna agus an Coddersnot. That is set in stone, introductory paragraph for all 5 of your poems. Magrosser Idilubini is based purely on imagery and humour. On Spalpeen Fánach is based purely on imagery, and on Tarek here is based purely on imagery. So for any of the poems, your introductory sentence for question 1, regardless of what it asks you, is Rinne mé stadir an dawn Colscara is a dera posta tema an dawn fecum an tema tríd na hialfanna agus an Coddersnacht. That is my introductory paragraph. Okay, because what I have noticed going through the papers is every single question 1 is always about, tell me what you have about the poem, tell me the nuances of the poem. The poem was always based on imagery, the theme is shown through the images, and therefore it doesn't matter if they ask you about the image or the theme, you're prepared, or the all right. Now, obviously, with Gavin and Colscara, you need to tip on the contrast, and then with McGrath, you need to tip on the humour. So if we look at the grid here, you can see that we have Gavin. So question 1 is always the theme, the portrayal, and the contrast. Colscara, it's the theme, the Leru, the portrayal, and the contrast. McGrath, it's the theme, the Leru, and the images. The Spalpeen is the theme, the portrayal, and the images. And on Tarek here is the theme, the portrayal, and the images. So it doesn't matter what question asks, what words they use. It is literally pick. Write that introduction I just spoke to you about, and then pick 3 images that you want to talk about, 3 things you want to talk about. If it's contrast, you want to give me 3 things of contrast. If it is the McGrath, if the images are all based on the man, you want to tell me that he's not attractive, and you know, because he looks like he's not even as nice as a daisy, and then you want to tell me he is really bad hair, he's cross-eyed, and then you want the third point, you want to tell me that, but he's a really nice person and he's kind to her. So all you need is 3 or 4 sentences per paragraph after that to discuss the images, and you can have this really, really well prepared in advance. I can guarantee you that your question 1 is going to be that. That is set in stone across all of the poems. After that, question 2 is based on it is never based on the actual poem itself. It's never looking for more information on the poem because you've just given me everything about the poem. What question 2 is going to be based on, it's going to be asking for a technical aspect of the poem and your opinion on it, and what does it do, and how does it, is it important or is it powerful? So if we look here, the kind of questions that could come up would be in relation to Gavin. You may get asked on the personification. Have you got 3, 4 sentences on personification? I like the personification. It's very effective. It emphasizes the lion's sadness. Okay, it's a very powerful technique. It helps show that the poet's feelings. That's what the personification is. It's not asking you to tell me what the personification is per se, because I can read the poem. I don't need you to read the poem to me. I need you to talk to me about the personification. I need you to talk to me about the ahra. It will ask you a question like, can you discuss the kuwakt on ahra, the power of the repetition. So you want to say the ahra, the repetition, is very effective. It puts emphasis on the poet's feelings. It shows the lion's sadness. It grabbed my interest. Why is it effective? What does it do? Not tell me that, for example, in Colscara, the last 2 lines, that question comes up, the power of the last 2 lines. People will often say things like, oh, the power of the last 2 lines are very important because the marriage, the people weren't happy, and so they weren't working out together, so they decided to get a divorce. But that's what you told me in question 1. I don't need to hear that again. What I need to hear from you in question 2 is the effect of the last 2 lines. Well, the last 2 lines were very effective. Why? They made me sad. Oh, first of all, I've to answer the question. They're very effective. They made me sad. They broke the rhythm of the poem. They highlighted the poet's feelings. The last lines are very sudden. It showed the sudden end to the marriage. That kind of stuff is how you get your answers. So personification and repetition are 2 pieces, you want to have 4 sentences ready to go. If you can answer your question 1 on everything about Gavin, and you can talk of 5 sentences on personification, 5 sentences on repetition, then you are sorted. Colscara, again, it's the theme, the portrayal, and the contrast, the same concept. So I studied the poem, the theme is, I see the theme to the image and the contrast, and then you pick 3 things. So the image, so he wanted a homely life and she wanted a far away life. He wanted it all around children and her staying at home, and she wanted independence and she wanted to get out. And then the last image of the last line, so they broke up, was because they couldn't come to a solution. That's what you got to write. How long does question 1 have to be? Just a bit over half a page. Okay. Question 2 is always answer the question and 3 to 4 sentences. Question 3 is still based on a technical aspect of the poem or the life of the poet, is answer the question and 4 to 5 sentences. So poetry, question 1 is about just about half a page. Question 2, answer the question and 3 to 4 sentences. Question 3, answer the question in 4 to 5 sentences. Question 1 is always tell me everything you have about the poem. You can prepare an answer that works across the board for every poem or for every question that comes up in that. Question 2 or 3 will either be a specific nuance about the poem, like personification and repetition for Gavin. For Colscara, the effect of the last 2 lines and the feelings in the poem. McGraw-Sater Lubini, it could ask you about the effect of the brackets. Well, they're funny. It could ask you about the humor. Well, I see the humor in the brackets and it's really funny. And the traits of the man specifically, which are the fact that he's a really nice man and he is actually kind to her sometimes. Spalpeen Fánach, they is slightly different because we don't know who wrote on Spalpeen Fánach. Therefore, you will never get asked about the poet. Therefore, you are guaranteed to get asked. Question number 1, the theme is the miserable life of the poet. I see the theme through the images. Question 2 can be something about the feelings in the poem, or the feelings in the poem, or the sadness of the Spalpeen, or something like that. And question 3 in Spalpeen Fánach is always on the meter of the poem, always on the meter of the poem. So for Spalpeen Fánach, you need 3 things. The meter. You need to be able to tell me the meter of the poem is the Aron. It's a on Taron Madrat on Dawn. Give me a rule about the rules of the Aron type poems. Tá rhythm Sudan. Le patrún A, B, A, B. There's a rhythm in the poem with a pattern of A, B, A, B. And then give me a sample. Mar hampla, hinniclina, or whatever the quote is you want to stick in. For Spalpeen Fánach, the meter is a guaranteed question if Spalpeen Fánach comes up. The theme is a guaranteed question for number 1, and the meter is a guaranteed question for number 3. Apart from that, you might be asked about the sadness of the Spalpeen, or the sail onish, the miserable life of the Spalpeen, which is the same thing as his sadness. Where do you see the feelings? On Tarakir then is an image question. You may get asked about the views and the sounds. Okay, so pick 2 views. Beautiful view of the man collecting seaweed on the beach, and the beautiful view of the women collecting seaweed on the beach. 2 sounds. Well, I hear the man cleaning the spade, and I hear the boat coming home full of fish. There's my views and my sounds. You might get asked about the use of adjectives. Well, the use of adjectives, there's lots of different adjectives in the poem, and people often talk about them wrong. They talk about the cunis shave. Cunis is not an adjective. Cunis is a noun. So cune is the adjective. So I would advise, if you get asked about the adjective, have this prepared for Tarakir. Talk about 2 adjectives. The colour bawn, the beach was bawn. It means it's glán, it's allin, it is nua. Okay, it's fresh, it's or. And then the other colour I pick is adjective I pick is the colour jarrig, because the red seaweed or the golden sea, it doesn't matter, both are the same. They're valuable, they're luachver, all in, cuachtok, really powerful. Okay, so we've got the descriptive on that. Another question that's come up is about the sounds. Well, I have the sounds ready because I can hear the man cleaning his spade and I can hear the men coming home in the boat full of fish. And the colours, well, I've already prepared on the white and the gold. And then the repetition, well, the same answer for the repetition works here and works for Gavin. The repetition is very effective. It draws my attention. It awakens my interest. Okay? A sample of it would be two things, doesn't matter. Genuinely doesn't really matter which one you say. And then you can say they put emphasis on the poet's feelings or the emotions of the poem, or the how the sparkling was falling, or their miserable life, or they can put the emphasis on anything at all that you like, and we will accept that. So you can really, really in advance have your answers prepared for what questions are coming up. After that, every poem you could get asked about the poet. All you need to have in relation to the poet is you need to have their name. If you don't know if you get the name wrong, you get no marks. So be careful about that. You need to have their name. You need to have two things about their life, where they, when they were born, and maybe what job did they have or something like that. And then you need one piece of work. They wrote a lot of work. Mar hapla Chronas Cardia. Once you have that, you will get the marks. I would suggest you put an extra little, instead of 2 pieces about their life, I put in 3 or 4 pieces just to look really good, because at the end, the examiner has got 5 marks to give you at the end. So it's really easy to think of the poets and to figure out, well, I'm going to create the same sentences for all the poets. Ruga, whoever, civilian, whatever, in whatever location. Chai sé tamil egg upper. He spent time working mar vúntor, mar illa, was the significant fished. Cui sé gotí colláiste, most of them went to college. For sé bá civilian, most of them are dead. So we can reuse that same information over and over again. I don't need a big long paragraph on the poets, just their life, their name, 3 pieces about them, 3 pieces of information about them, and 1 piece of work. You may get asked about the title of the poem, and this again is across the board. You don't need to create one for, are years important when giving information about the poet's works? No, they're not. It used to be that you wouldn't have gotten the marks if you didn't write that in, but that is not the case anymore. All you need to do is say Shrieve, Shay, Cran, August Cardia. He wrote Cran and Cardia, and I can give you the 2 marks tick. That's all I need for that. Great question. In relation to the title, you may get asked a question about the title, and it will literally say to you, what, or is the title of the poem suitable? There's a question mark. You have to answer that question. Yes, the title of the poem is suitable. An will an te de la runach, ta an te de la runach. Why? Same reason the repetition is really good. It put emphasis on, it grabbed my attention, it awoke my interest. I was eager to read the poem. If the title question comes up, there's 2 things you need to do. You need to answer the question, and you need to tell me it's, of course, the title is suitable because the poem is about a lion in a cage, about the end of a marriage, about the hard life of the what you call it, the hard life of the penny worker. Where do we find these notes? I've some notes coming down here for you, but it's all available in your book. And so the trick is to go to whatever notes you have and be careful what you get online. Sometimes the quality of stuff online is shocking. But I have some coming up here for you. Go to your book. Start by looking for, what am I looking for? What kind of things do I want to say? And then go to your book and go, what do I actually understand? Because people spend an awful lot of time and effort finding these really fancy magical sentences that there's no marks in, no extra marks in. If you've answered the question, you've answered the question. I can't give you more marks than what the question is worth. So it is really the best thing I would say to any student. Where are you? What do you understand? And that's, you go to your notes and you go, I understand this sentence, this sentence, this sentence, this sentence. Put those together. Does it answer my question? Oh, I need to be able to say one other thing. Go find how to say that. And that's what you've done. So you're taking, if you can do 4 of the sentences, you just have to learn 1/5 one, and you've got a beautiful paragraph that works for your answer. So the title of the poem is because the poem is suitable, because the poem is about blah. Whatever the blah is, a lion in a cage, end of a marriage, the beauty of the Aran Islands. Do I have any advice on the Tishel Ginnadoc? The Tishel Ginnadoc is, I love the Tishel Ginnadoc. It is amazingly easy when it is broken down. In order to do the Tishel Ginnadoc, you need to be able to figure out masculine and feminine. Okay, so there's a two-step lesson to teaching to it. We've got to teach you how to find the masculine and feminine, and then look at the patterns that go on. For them, I won't have time in this class to do it. I do them, I do it all the time, but I don't have time in this one. What I would suggest is, as you're going through your notes, you're going to see the word dawn, D-A father N, and you're going to see dawn, D-A father I-N. Write down beside, if the word is normal on dawn, and then write TG beside where it's Tishel Ginnadoc. Note, this is normal, this is Tishel Ginnadoc. And at least that way, you're identifying which one is which. You will see patterns. You will see that dawn, D-A father I-N, I goes into most of the masculine words. Skull, mala, skullia, you will see that an E goes at the end of most feminine words, and that's how we put them in. So unless you've got someone that's able to teach you the Tishel Ginnadoc, I would literally go normal Tishel Ginnadoc. That's a key word in the poem. I know I'm not going to be able to write an answer on a poem without talking about the word poem. So I need to know how to spell the word poem. And I need to know how to say the theme of the poem, Tishel Ginnadoc, D-A father I-N. So therefore, you're not going to know the Tishel Ginnadoc of everything. You're human beings. Nobody does, all right? I love the Tishel Ginnadoc. I'm fairly epic at it, but I still wouldn't know everything. So it's about, and I don't need to know everything, okay? Because I tend not to talk about certain things, so I won't use them. How long should essays be and how many would you prepare? I'll get to that essays in a minute, but come back to me if I don't answer that question. So just give me a minute on that one. I'm going to finish the poems here and we'll move on. So the title question I've done, on Gane is Farlat, quotes. You need to be more specific. Quotes to be prepared for the poem, stories, or plays, or what are you talking about? On Gane is Farlat, my favourite aspect. My favourite aspect of the poem is maybe the personification, maybe the humour, maybe the title, because it's the piece that I have already done. You don't need a quote for the poem. The poem is on the paper. So therefore, you don't need a quote. It's there. So I'm not giving you marks for writing from the paper to the piece. Okay? You're not quotes. What you're doing is an analysis on the poem. You will never have to learn the poem. So you can throw in quotes if your teacher says, I need quotes, then keep your teacher happy because they're the ones giving you your end of year results. Okay, so but you don't actually need any quotes for any of the pieces of work, and the poems are on the paper. So why would I give you marks for writing from A to B? So you're not getting any marks there. Conna Sakui Shea Weimert, how did it impact you? It impacted me greatly because I really liked the title or the humour or the Lubini or whatever aspect I have prepared already. These questions come up all the time. My favourite aspect, how did it impact you? It impacted me greatly because my favourite aspect is, and then I'm going to write about the title or whatever else I have prepared. The feelings in the poem, be careful about, is it asking you about the feelings in the poem, the feelings of the poet, or the strongest feeling in you? Now, the answer is all the same in the case that it makes me sad. Well, there's sadness in the poem. The poet is sad, and I was sad. But the question will specifically ask you either your feelings, the poet's feelings, or the feelings in the poem. Make sure you answer that specifically, and you will be just fine. So let's have a look. So all the poetry questions are based on an analysis of the poem. You can reuse the same language across all 5 poems. So when you're doing the contrast question for Kulskara, that's exactly the baseline place you start off for talking about contrast in Kulskara. Look at the poems all as one entity. It is one skill set to be able to write about the repetition in the poem. It's one skill set. To be able to write about the title of the poem, it is one skill set. All poems will have 3 questions. We have 1, 2, and 3. So we have question 1 is worth 15 marks. For 15 marks, you get 13. It's about half a page long. And it is based on everything you've got. Tell me everything you got about the poem. Tell me the introduction, you see the theme, tell me the 3 images you want to talk about, and say I really like the poem. Question 2 will have something along the lines of the tábhacht, this word I'm underlying, the importance associated with the repetition. So it's asking you not to say, I like the repetition. The repetition is important. Why? It puts emphasis on, it shows, it portrays. Can you repeat the same points you use in part 1 and part 2 if it works? Well, I'm telling you that imagery is going to be the question in part 1, guaranteed. So therefore, the odds of the imagery is not going to come up in question 2. So you might need to use the same piece of information to back up what you're saying, but technically you really don't need to. However, yes, you can. If it says, what's your favorite aspect? And you're saying my favorite aspect is imagery, and you're repeating exactly what you've said in question 1, you will get full marks there. But what you won't do is at the end, when there's 5 marks, because I've said that there's 15, I keep 2. I keep 1 from this, and instead of 9, you get 7. So I have 5 left over as the examiner. I'll give you 5 at the end. If you've repeated the same in part 1 and part 2, then I'm not going to give you 5. You're going to lose marks there because, like, why'd I give you a mark? It can't be excellent if you've repeated yourself. Okay, so yes and no. You don't lose 1 or 2 marks over at 30 in the whole thing from that. So the importance of the last 2 of the repetition. And the last one is who wrote the poem, write on the life and works of the poet. I need 2 pieces on his life. I need the name of 1 piece of work. And I need the poet's name, the question mark. If you ever see a question mark, answer that specific question. Who wrote the poem? Nuala Uí Cheallaigh. What's the importance of repetition? It's very important. Okay, they don't have to be interesting, they just have to answer the question. Colscara is the outlooks, the different outlooks regarding marriage, imagery, and contrast. The effect of the last 2 lines, question mark, it's very effective. And who wrote the poem? Answer the question and write on the life and works of the poet. It's highly repetitive if you do an analysis on the paper, which I've done for you, so you don't have to do it. Okay, so question 1 will always be based on the broadest aspect of the poem. They will use different words, but you can answer it in the same way every time by talking about the theme of the poem and how the theme is shown, through the images and whatever other aspect that is specific to that poem. For example, Gavin and Colscara. Contrast for Gavin and Colscara, humour for McGrawsa, whereas Spalpeen, Fánacht and Tarkir are only based on images. You can introduce your poem's first question answer with the same paragraph. Rinne me Stadger an Dawn all in Gavin, Hatton and Dawn Gomorlum, Hig me Kyocht on Dawn. I understood the lesson of the poem. Bhuin an fille úsáid as, the poet made use of focal cuachtacha, powerful words. It's a dersha, captivity, tema on dawn, fecum on tema, trini haven. I see the theme through the images. That introductory paragraph will set you up for success in every single question 1, no matter what. Okay. Sorry, my checkbox is gone. Question 2. Then write 2 to 3 short paragraphs. Oh, sorry, this is still in question 1. After that, you want to write 2 to 3 short paragraphs explaining separate points. The most important thing is you understand what you are writing. So that's what I suggested when somebody said, where you get the notes. Go to your book, go to your notes, go to whatever you have and pick out the sentences you understood. People think that it has to be fancy, and paper 2 is not fancy. The literature questions are to tell me, fecum on loan, Tá sé sa zoo, Níl sé sásta. That is correct. The Irish is perfect. It is full marks. Like it works, it works. The most important thing is you understand what you're writing. If you don't understand what you're trying to say, then how will I, the examiner, understand what you mean? Because if it's a bit gobbledygook for you, it's going to be totally gobbledygook for me, because I'm not living in your head, so I don't know what way you're thinking. You do not receive higher marks for complicated Irish. Beautiful, simple, clear Irish is perfect, and you will get full marks with it. If your points are clear and true, your Irish is simple and correct, your answer will earn you the full marks. So let's look at this. These are my samples of 2 paragraphs that I could put into the middle of Gavin. Eg tús an dawn at the start of the poem, Tishel Ginnadach. Fecamid on loan in a homie in Archwar. We see the line, living in a big place. Egg, rip, ser, running free. A curra I gos a, he was put in a cage. So I have opposites, an áit and I have a cage, opposites to each other. A prison biog, a small prison. So agus ní dhearna sé rud be, he didn't do anything. Ach lí sias an lá fad would lie down for the whole day. So instead of egreser, he's lying down for the whole day. Notice when I'm doing my contrast, most people, what they do is they go, paragraph 1, they go A, and then B. I, as an examiner, will tell you it is much easier to give you marks to go A, B, because if you write your first paragraph on life in the jungle and the second paragraph is on life in the cage, I am halfway through your answer before I'm able to give you any marks because I don't see any contrast before that. So it's really contrast trip, A, B. So Bhíodh sail iontach ega, he used to have a fabulous life. A chail sé gach zoo, he lost everything in the zoo. They are opposite of each other. That is my first paragraph. My second paragraph, if versa ado, so that is a sample for the line, one paragraph of the line, you give me a second paragraph on the line and job done. This is a sample paragraph that would work for Antarctic here. If versa ado, fecamid far ella ag ober, we see another man working. Ag balu feamina an trá von, he's gathering seaweed on the white beach. Mullen an filla an rairk, the poet praises the view. Mull is the verb to praise or advise. It's a really cool one. Mullen an filla an rairk, the poet praises the view. An rairk all in the beautiful view. Agus a sail tradiisiúnta, and it's the beautiful life. Sauliam, I imagine. Fecum. Sauliam, I imagine. An yaman yarig ag sulshu fuin ngrian, the red seaweed shining under the sun. Is picture idélach é seo an sail mar bhíodh fadó áireann. It is an ideal picture on life as it used to be long ago on Arran. Now, they're actually quite long. You don't need all of that. What do you understand? Where are you? And what can you take from that? That would be the sample of very top level H1 paragraphs. 2 of those paragraphs, introduction, 2 of those paragraphs, and a conclusion, and that is full marks. And conclusion is I really like the poem. And that is your full marks for question 1 on the poems. Question 2 will always be a technical question based on poetry as opposed to explaining the poem again, which answers the question, can you use part 1 and part 2? Don't explain the poem again. You might be asked about your favorite aspect of the poem, the importance of the repetition, or the value of the adjectives. Listen to those key words: the importance of the repetition, the value of the adjectives. It's really important that you answer the specific questions. For example, the last 2 lines are very powerful because they broke the rhythm of the poem. To get full marks in question 2, you need to answer the question and give me 2 to 4 of your opinions. 2 to 4 cents of your opinions. So sample here. Is the title suitable? On Will and Ted Runach. That comes up quite often, believe it or not. Is the title suitable? Answer the question. Tá an Ted Runach. It is suitable. Mar, is Dawn Fui? It's Dawn A Fui. It's a poem about, stick in what it's about, in this case, Jera on Fós to the end of marriage. Rug sé ma him. It grabbed my interest. Vi me diachasach an Dawn Alev. I was eager to read the poem. It's technique an chuachtaki. It's very effective technique. Hatton an gane gomorlam. I really liked this aspect. That is a full H1 answer there. Can éfacht of winning lesh on da Lena Derenocht and Dawn? What is the effect of the last 2 lines? V na ga Lena Derenocht. So that should be on da. I don't know why it's na ga. Sorry, there's a typo there. On da. Okay, not na ga. I have no idea how I did that. V on da Lena Derenocht on éfachtach. The 2 last lines are very effective. Her, she had, brown they made me sad. Vrish Siad Pátrún an Dawn. They broke the pattern of the poem. Tishel Ginnadoc da for the I and the pattern of the poem, the theme of the poem. Masculine word popping in that I. Léirigh na Léanta an Téarma Dúach Brónach. The lines portrayed the darkly sad theme. Is technique on Cuachtacht Isha? It's a very effective technique, just like the title is a very effective technique. They're not going to ask me both questions, so therefore I can use that sentence in all of my questions in part 2 answers. Céin tábhacht of winning leis an ahras adán. What's the value of the repetition? Dúsáid an fille on focal hauntig or on taraki or whatever it is, go minnig sadon. He used the word whatever often in the poem. Tashbonan on focal loider shot. This powerful word shows. On tábhacht winning leis an téma, it shows the importance associated with the theme. Of course it does. Díríonn sé ar nard. It focuses our attention. Everything does. Cuireann sé na mothúcháin. It puts emphasis on the feelings. Every poem. Is technique cliste é agus hatan sé liom. It's a clever technique and I really like it. Question 3 is usually about the life and the work of the poet. Marks here, for marks here, you need to give me the poet's name. Has to be the poet's name properly, and then give me 3 pieces about their life and one name of one piece of work they have done. So scríomh whoever, Pádraig MacSibna an Dawn, Rugga he was 1952 Ard an Raha Cunta Dúningáil. He spent time ag Múna. He was a writer and a famous poet. He died in 2020. And he wrote a lot of work. Amongst them, there is Kranskart or whatever ones he wrote. Okay, so you literally, that is all you need for the life and works of the poet in bullet points. When it comes for the work of the poet, make sure you pick the one that's easiest for you to spell. And remember, you're not getting any marks for being more adventurous. Okay, any questions on the poetry, guys? Is that helping? Give me a couple of thumbs up if I'm hitting you what you need, and if everyone's relatively happy. I go with relative because it's really hard to, okay, it's making sense. All right. Brilliant. Excellent. If you're tying time during the exams, please, Grace, great question. Only write your answers in bullet points for the last one. I can find them really quickly and really easily. So bullet point for the life and works of the poet. Absolutely. Keela, you don't need a long answer for poetry. No, they're only worth 30 marks. You get them done in like a page. Okay? Super. Any other questions on poetry? If you think of anything, jump in and ask. Love to answer them. Love questions. So I get to stop talking to myself. Okay, the prose, you have 5 pieces of work. Okay? Now, not Goffa. Wrong thing. Gnorrod has never, ever, ever come up. Okay, there's lots of conspiracy theories as to why that's happened. I don't leave it off. That's me. I'm not leaving it off in case it comes up. I worked with a teacher many years ago, probably before any of you were born. Actually that old. And I remember he turned around and wasn't teaching this specific poem because it wasn't coming up, and he knew it wasn't coming up, and it came up. And not one of the students was able to answer on it, and there was war. And I learned then, I will never make a judgment call for somebody else's life. Okay, that could screw things up. So I was, I'll answer those questions now. I will never leave anything off. So Gnorrod is something I still cover. It has never come up, but that doesn't mean it won't come up. However, the value of what we get from it is fantastic. So let me just answer some of these questions. You don't need long answer for poetry. No. Do you only need one work to get the full marks on that part of the question? Yes, and yes, Andrea, one piece of work. That's all I can give you. So there's no point in giving you any more, and they're not going to be of use to you in a table quiz or anywhere else in life. So don't worry about it. I was told a question A would need to be at least 1.5 pages for full marks. Is that true? No, it's absolutely not true. Most definitely not true. If you think about an essay is worth 100 marks, and your essay should be about 2.5 pages, then your poetry, your poems should not be anything like that. Question, page and a half. You're going to bore the examiner to tears. You're going to repeat yourself. You're going to make mistakes, and you're going to waffle on, and you're going to lose marks the more you write. So quality over quantity. What are the 5 marks for the examiner saved till the end that are based on? They are based on, is this answer in front of me, this page that you've worked, is it excellent? Is it really good? Is it good? Is it grand? Or is it poor? We tend to give 4 or 5. Okay. If your teacher says there won't be an essay or a so I hope that makes sense. My Irish teacher said there won't be an essay or a comprehension on a summer test. Could a 2-hour exam really be made up by poetry and prose question? Shouldn't be. You've about 25 minutes in the exam to do it, but there's no rules as to what teacher puts on their summer exam. So you'll have some teachers that are really effective and some teachers that are looking for easy corrections. Are they going to put a grammar aspect on it, which is not going to be on Leaving Cert paper? You really should. I can't answer that without. My advice would be go, sir, miss, whoever it is, and just say, can you say, are we just doing poems and poetry for the, get them to tell you what kind of things are going to be questioned, and hopefully they'll give you an answer. Okay. And somebody was said, like, what are they based on? Like, if I said to you, like this class, the information I've given you so far, has it been excellent? Has it been very good? Has it been good? Has it been grand? Does it, like if I said Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. Was that excellent? Was it good? Was it very good? There is a logical thing of figuring out. We're really, really generous there. If your answer's right, we'll give you 5 marks. And we will allow the odd mistake here and there. Okay, so if we look at the prose, most of the prose will have 1 question for you to answer. In general, you can have the same introductory paragraph for all pieces, telling me that you've studied that the piece. Sorry, I did type these up really late one evening last week. I do apologize. I don't usually do stuff in English. Yeah, I don't. My notes are in Irish. I'm only doing this because we've only got an hour and 15 to try and get you ready for your end of year exams. Most of the prose will have 1 question for the answer. Okay. In general, you can have the same introductory paragraph for all the pieces, telling me you've studied the piece. You comment that you enjoyed it, and the main theme is. Okay. So you would literally say, Rinne me stadier on scale dish. Hatton Shagamore Lum is a gra tema on scale, the theme of the story. That is my introduction, and it's set in stone. After that, each piece has its own special nuance. Okay. In general, you want to be able to talk about 4 different, if you can answer these 4 different things, you can deal with whatever question that comes up. The characters, it might ask you to discuss the actual characters. Now, so know your characters. Most of them only have 2 people. You've got Catherine and Paul on the train. You've got in her Lamabach, it's Lísín and her. It's always based on Lísín and the family. In Dish, it's the husband and wife. Okay, we tend just to have the 2 main characters. Adrea, their traits. So I would suggest you have 3 adjectives to describe each character. And for example, Catherine is really, or not Catherine. Yeah, we'll go Catherine. Catherine is really, Catherine's really impatient. Where do I see it? She wants to read her book and he won't stop talking. That's how I see the trait. Cá Ekum gach trait, where I see every trait. And the big one is the chunker na character, the influence of the characters on the other people or on the theme. So the impact that they had, the effect that they had on each other. Once you can talk about, put a sentence or 2 about that in. Tá chunker more egg Paul Catherine. That's how you deal with that question. Okay, so those are the type of things that come up. If you see any question marks, make sure you answer that question specifically. What part did Niamh play in the piece? Niamh played a central or important part. What impact did Lísín have on the other people in the story? She had a powerful impact on the other people in the story. Bhí chunker mór ag Lísín gach duine eile sa chlán. Cálca you want to be able to talk about the traits of the characters as they are portrayed. So, cén sort duine í Catherine, cén sort duine é Paul. Agus, on Gael, the relationship between them. It's a terrible relationship. It's ufosach. Neil Catherine Sásta, tá Paul Páistúil, tá sé Curtis Jocker. He's annoying her. But why lay he sus? She wants a break. So you can really just, and notice that the Irish I'm using there isn't highfalutin and fancy. Because highfalutin and fancy, I'm sorry, I'm a state examiner. I correct exam papers all the time for the Leaving Cert, right? So that's how I spend my summer holidays. High fancy Irish gets complicated. It structurally changes things and it makes people make mistakes. Simple, clear Irish that you understand, that you are sure of, will get you top marks every time. So Catherine, Cálca you want to be able to talk about the traits of the characters as they're portrayed and the relationship between Catherine and Paul. It's a terrible relationship. Dísh, you want to talk about the woman, how she is unhappy with her boring life, Sail Ladronach. Talk about the husband, Sean, and how he is oblivious to her. Ní higgin sé. A Sail, her life, uigness, her loneliness. Be able to say that this is all done through an interesting, an odd conversation. Tá an scéal I bhorm córa. It's in the form of a conversation. Tá sé ach granver. It's strange but funny. You may be asked about the impact of the survey lady's visit. Not asking you to describe her visit. It'll ask you about the impact of her visit. So what is the impact? Well, what have I said there? She started, the woman, thinking about her life. Chur she on van ag smuoinmh faoina Sail. She put the woman thinking about her life. The other impact is it started a conversation between the husband and wife. Thosig an survey córa idir Sean agus a van. In what order would you prioritize the topics for somebody looking for the H1, the orals, prose, and ashta? I would always go where the points are. Top priority would be your essay and your oral. So your oral and your essay. After your oral and your essay, I would focus on the tape, the listening exam. After that, I would do your literary breisha, and then I would do the poem, and then I would do the prose at the very bottom of that. Okay, but what I will say is, if you are clever, you can reuse the vocabulary and the words you learn in the poems and the stories. Whatever verbs I use in my poems, I'll use them in my prose, and I will then use them in my essays. Whatever fabulous little phrases I have in my essays, I use them in my Shrap Picture, I use them in my oral exam. Okay, I reuse information as much as I can. I don't need to know everything. I need to know how to handle the paper. There are words that are constantly coming up again and again and again. If you look at the papers in individual, okay, it seems like a minefield. If you go through all the papers and pull out all the Gavin questions, you can see that they're all the exact same. If you look at the essay titles on technology, you will see there's only 3 titles of technology that come up, 3 styles. Okay, so you can really bring down to what it is that you want to be able to say, and then you can go, well, that's really cool. And I can use that phrase here, there, and everywhere. So I have an essay coming up that I'm going to answer on that. And we'll be able to show you stuff we can use it elsewhere. So Dísh usually comes to one question, but it could be broken down to 3 parts. Her Lamabach centers around, oh God, leashing. Why did it go leashing like that? And her behavior and her opinions. Her focus is, my computer obviously is set to correct, is fixed in Irish, not English. It all centers around Lisi, Lisi for the N, and her behavior and opinions. Her focus is on her image and what the neighbors think. She is proud of their status, their wealth, and their success. It is this attitude that controls the family and dictates everything. That is the answer on Leashing. Pad it out with what you have. Usheen, slightly different. It tends to come in 3 smaller questions. These questions will be based on 2 traits of Usheen, being loving and loyal. Really handy to have them pre-prepared. The relationship between Usheen and Patrick, it's a good relationship. The part that he plays in the story, St. Patrick, it's a central part. The part that Niamh plays in the story, it's an important part. My favourite mythological trait, go with magic or exaggeration. So all of that should be available in the books or in the notes. Now, obviously we do them in class, but I can't give out the whole course or I'd be giving you 700 million pages and you would never speak to me again. So this will tell you how to build your essays and put them together. Okay. Now, the other thing, will there be a choice on the Leaving Cert exam in the prose and poetry questions? Yes, you will get 2 poems on the paper and you have to write on one, and you will get 2 prose questions on the paper and you have to write on the one that you choose. Okay, that is set in stone. The minister announced the other day, as you only have 10 trap picture to do. That information that's on that page is what you need in order to get a H1 in to guide you to creating an answer that is a H1 for the prose. Remember, it is 30 marks at 25 minutes. Therefore, it's about a page. That's all, not even a page. I want like 3/4 of a page, 2/3, that kind of a length. Okay, answer the question and where do you see the information? Don't give me more than that. You won't have time to write it out in the exam, but you can get really deeply involved in preparing in advance if you go through the papers, which is basically when I teach any poem, play or story. I start with the end in mind. So I go to, now on Trial and Gaff and them have been on the paper for like hundreds of years. Slight exaggeration. But yeah, this course here that you're looking at, you're the last students to do it, has been, we've been teaching this since 2010. So it's been on the exam papers in 2012. So I go back to my exam papers and I then am able to figure out from the exam papers what kind of things are coming at me. And I know exactly where I have to end up. What information do I need to have to achieve? Okay, so I do this with my students all the time. We start at the end so we know what's coming up. So for example, I'm not doing it with you today, technology. I know for a fact that there are 3 types of technology essays that come up. Number 1 is technology today. Right, whatever you like. Number 2 is the impact, the influence, the power of technology. I need to say it's very important. It's very powerful. It helps, it hurts, it grows, it strengthens. My 3rd question that comes up in relation to technology in our the essay is, what's my 3rd question? Oh yes, the pros and cons of technology. So it's really bad because it does this, and it's really good because it does this. So could I have an answer that says it's very effective because it does these bad things, and it's very powerful because it does these good things, and I can have and therefore that one essay I can have prepared on technology will cover any technology question that comes up. So I think about in advance where I want to go when I deal with technology before I start teaching it. So in relation to your poems and your story, your prose, this here is will get you, that's based on my analysis of the stories. That's the kind of stuff that comes up. That's it. That's all that comes up. Any questions on the prose? Before I get asked, you do not need quotes. There is no marks given for quotes. You're welcome to put them in or not put them in. But be aware, this course, I've been teaching it in, yes, I'll do that now. I have been teaching it since 2010. And there is, what was I saying there? Teaching this in 2010. Oh yeah, there's not one line, one further, not one full stop in every play, poem or story that I don't know off by heart. So therefore, you only quote if you're going to get it absolutely bang on. How long does the prose have to be? The prose has to be over half, between half and 2/3 of the page. Plenty. Can I briefly go through tips for the oral exams? Yes, I would. There are 2 things. Okay, the oral exam starts with your name, your age, your date of birth, your address, and you won't know your exam number till next year. So you get those 4 questions. It then goes into the reading of the poem. The reading of the poem should be, remember I did that Humpty Dumpty silly thing for you, okay? Did anybody think I was excellent? I'd be worried, okay? Did anybody think I was very good? Not really. So I was good. Okay, so I'll get in the middle, 50%. But I didn't mispronounce anything. I pronounced every single word properly. I might have been, but every word is pronounced properly. But I didn't have a clue. It didn't sound like I had a clue what I was saying. So I'm not going to get high marks there. So by just reading the poem, from a piece of paper, no, you're not getting an excellent. My advice for reading the poem, go onto Spotify, go onto YouTube, go onto wherever it is you get your information and listen to the poems. Put it on in the background, Gavin, over and over and over and over again until, like when you're cleaning your teeth, when you're emptying the dishwasher, when you're going to school in the morning, whatever it is. And just do verse 1 of Gavin over and over until you absolutely have it nailed. And when you've got that nailed, then do verse 2, 1 and 2. And then when you've that nailed, the next week on to the next poem. But you're walking, giving away 35 marks if you don't have that really well prepared. Everything is available online. You want to say it like you mean it. Okay, so that's 35 marks in the bag, and it's scary how easy it is to get full marks in it, but yet people aren't getting those full marks because they're not listening. You wouldn't learn a song by listening to it once and making it up the rest of the time. You'd have to listen to it over and over to let it sink in and get the tune right and the beat right and whatnot. Same for the poems. Make sure you're listening to them, not just regurgitating what you think it is. I have seen people practice them badly, so wrong, and it's so sad. Then we got into the conversation. The conversation is, there's 2 things you can do for the conversation. Number 1 is you can have little blurbs prepared on yourself. I would go nicely to, yes, I'll get to the listening exam now. I would go to the first year Irish book that you had, or find a friend in first year and be nice to the first years. They're only little people. And borrow. You will see the content in the first year book is the exact same as 70% of your oral exam. Your name, your friends, your pastimes, your family, your school, your area. Can you give me a blurb on your area? Okay. When I'm going into the oral exam and I'm examining 70 students from the same school, I don't want to hear tá Kishtin agus Shomarang agus Hala Sport agus, like, I know what's in your school because it's the same as every other school in the country. Like if I went to a party and I said, hi, oh, you go to St. Mary's, and you said, yes, I'm in St. Mary's school, and in my school I have a kitchen and we have a sports hall and we have a laboratory and we have a hockey pitch. I don't want to hang out with you. So therefore, sorry, there's somebody trying to come in. I don't want to hang out with you if that's what you're doing at a party. So why do you think an oral examiner wants to hear about in my town there is a Lowerlin and a Picturelin and a Shomer? That's the same. Have something to say. You can really prepare this. You can borrow, beg and steal the oral stuff from anywhere, online, anywhere, and have a little blurb to say on all the topics. 2 blurbs, okay? School would take maybe 2, all right? But that's it. What do you want to say? Oh, my name is Nuala. I go to St. Mary's School. I really like it. We've got loads of facilities. It's a really busy building. Students going everywhere. There's lots of subjects. I actually got my choice of subjects for my leaving cert. Thanks be to God. The examiners go, oh, what subjects are you doing? Well, I'm doing biology and French and Irish. I'm doing the usuals. I'm doing English, Irish and maths. And then for my language, I'm doing French and I'm doing, okay. And I'm studying those because I'd really like to go to college in Trinity College and I'd like to study maths and I'd like to be a teacher. And you're guiding the examiner through. So the more thought you put into it, what you want to say, the better. So that's step 1, is have your blurbs prepared. Second thing is it doesn't have to be complicated. It has to be interesting. I want to have a conversation with you. All right. So if somebody gives me this is the second part. Sorry, somebody said how complicated your vocab and language have to be. Very not complicated. Conversational Irish. So if somebody turns around in the oral exam and they've got really fancy, really highfalutin, really clearly learnt off blurbs, I'm going to go, okay, they're excellent. I'm going to throw you a curveball and see how excellent you are. Therefore, I am going to ask you I'm going to throw in some random questions to see if you're actually really good. So when you're learning off your blurbs, you want a bit of acting. You want to go, oh, God, well, it's like if somebody said to you, what's your favorite television program? My favorite program at the moment is, you wouldn't go, I really love Emmerdale. It is my favorite program. It has got 7 characters. Nobody answers questions like that in normal life. So therefore, a bit of acting, bit of blurbs, doesn't have to be complicated. Highest marks go to people that I can have an actual conversation with. So how do you practice having an actual conversation? You get your mom, your dad, your auntie, your person, your little sister, your cousin, whoever's around you, and you say on a Tuesday evening, you say from here on in for an hour, it's just Irish, and everybody talks Irish in as much as you can, or once a week at lunchtime with your friends. And you ask, so I'm in a room here, so I can see there's a poster on the wall. So I will go, on will poster air on Mala? Can I answer that question? Tá poster air on Mala. Céint tá air on poster. Tá on poster do agus bon. Ishka. So I've got a bottle of water. So I'll go dole me on tishka, near ol me on tishka. Olam ishka gakla, ni olam ishka gakla. I'm practicing simple, clear sentences with verbs in the right tense. No. Next question. Do you need shanachos for the Cora? No, I don't know anybody that walks down the road speaking in shanachos. We speak in little phrases. I might say to somebody, I'm not going to walk down the road and say, oh, I heard you went shopping yesterday. Well, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. Nobody says things like that. But what they do say is, oh, really like your dress. Thanks. Sure, it's as old as the hills. Tá sé cushan leis na canic. That's a not kinda. Weakas ladia, an annam day. Those phrases we use constantly in natural conversation, but we don't use shan knuckles. So shan knuckles are not worth the grades that teachers spend emphasis on. You're not like nobody talks in shan knuckles. It's fine. You don't need any. You don't need any for your trap picture. How long should on trial answer be? On trial should be about a page. That's, yeah, introduction, 3 paragraphs and a conclusion. So about a page. I'm not looking for a summary of on trial. I'm looking for an analysis of it. Any other questions on that? Does that help with the oral? And then your trap pictures, just practice. Just and do it with a friend if you can. How many sentences do you do in each strat? To pass, you need to do 4 sentences. 4 sixes is 24. So 24 sentences will get you a pass. Now, I don't think any of you are here on a Saturday at honours level looking for a 40, 50%. So therefore, you need to have about 40 sentences, 50 sentences. So how do you get it down to 50 sentences? You use the same things over and over again. Oh, near cred sheet a hula, v sheet of windham wicca. Vi an Imsher go hall and gone speckle, gone scommel le feckle sa spare. Cred no cred, vuig sheet on kern, cooey on slew of fion, the cred went wild, vi atmosphere electric sanach, vi an arch gnohawk, ladini dull and on the place was really busy with people going back and forth. So loads and loads of filler sentences that you can reuse across the board in every shot picture. All of my shot pictures start with de luna vion. And they all finished with ni yeni shijarmader and loshin. They'll never forget that day. Every shot picture people are talking. Fishy the kind to the coro. Do you need fancy vocab for the shra? I don't do fancy for the shra, but I do extra sentences to make up for the lack of fanciness. But I would have like my students would do 10 sentences per box, and they can just fire them out of me. Ovishay of window making your criteria hula, just atmosphere electrica VM. You do want to impress me for the shot picture to get full marks. What's the longest a paragraph should be for the prose answer? As long as you like. We don't judge life on that at the leaving cert. At honours, we're correcting the piece of work. Is the answer there? Have you answered the question? If you've given it to me in one long piece with no paragraph breaks, it's fine. What matters is, can I read it? Not where your commas and not where your gaps in the paragraphs are. If you don't put in, if you make one answer and don't break into paragraphs, you'll still get full marks. Anything else there? Okay, I'm going to move on to essays. We have 11 minutes left. So good at maths, me. Okay, so we are looking at an Ashta is the essay. This is 100 marks. Okay, it is the holy grail. I don't know why. I don't understand statistics, but basically whatever you get in your essay tends to be what you get overall in your exams. What I will say to you is the vocabulary that we use in our essays, you want to reuse it in your poems, in your plays, in your stories, and in your scrap picture. You want to get value for any piece of work that you put in. It is not about knowing anything. It's everything. It's about communicating effectively. So if I reuse the same sentences over and over and over again, I own them. I'm comfortable with them. I'm confident in them. I'm not going to make any mistakes with them. And I'm going to get use of them. You've got physics, you've got maths, you've got geography, you've got Debs, you've got boyfriend, girlfriend, or somebody wrecking your head. Like, you know what I mean? You've so much going on at your stage and your phone buzzing, buzzing, buzzing. So therefore, I really feel it's valuable that we value your time. So I wouldn't expect my students to learn everything. We focus in on where we're going to get value from things. There is a range of essay topics that could come up, but you do not need to have a separate essay for every topic. You need to be able to write one essay really well. I would recommend you pick sentences that you understand. The exact same as I said with the prose and with the poems. Go to the notes and find stuff you understood. If the notes are from your book, right? Fuentes is the most commonly, 80% of schools around the country use Fuentes. It is excellent. The standard is epic. All right. Some of it's lovely. It's challenging Irish. Go to it. Pick sentences that I understand that sentence from beginning to end. Going to use that one. Going to use that one. Okay, because that's where the marks are. I'd recommend you pick sentences that you understand and that can be reused again and again to create an essay. You want to identify the keywords for each topic, and you can slip those in and out of the sentences. So it cannot be denied that there's a big problem in Ireland in relation to the climate of the planet. It cannot be denied that there's a big problem in Ireland in relation to the education system. It cannot be denied that there's a big problem in Ireland in relation to the health system. All right, this problem of climate of storms can be solved if we all work together. This problem of the bad use of technology can be solved if we all work together. So all I got to do is slip in and out keywords in relation to different topics. You want to identify the keywords for each topic you slip in and out of the sentences. If you reuse the same sentences, the same sentence styles, the same phrases over and over, you become really confident with them. It's better to have a short essay that you understand than a long essay full of gobbledygook. Less is more. Only write what you understand, because if you don't understand what you are writing, then the examiner won't understand what you are writing. Most essays tend to have an introduction, 2 to 3 main paragraphs, and a conclusion. You do not need a separate paragraph to tell me the solutions. And you actually do not need a long conclusion that you summarize everything you've just written, because I've just read your essay. So why do I need you to summarize what you've just written? Technically, it's not actually an essay. It is a newspaper article, because if you're going from your basis practice on English, you know English essays are about, 6, 8 pages long. I have no idea. They're way longer. So you have to structure them that way. This isn't an essay. It is a long piece. So therefore, you don't need to summarize and regurgitate everything you put into the essay, because you'll actually end up repeating yourself and bringing your marks down. So you don't need that big long conclusion. The introduction and the conclusion pretty much can be generic across the essays. As soon as I saw the title of this essay, blah, I couldn't wait to grab a pen to write down my ideas. The teacher says an essay needs to be 5-6 pages to be H1 level. You won't get a H1 if you write a 6-page essay. Not getting one. You're going to drop marks. You're going to go down. It's disaster. Disaster. If I was looking for a really long essay to impress the examiner, I would not go beyond 3 pages. And I would not write anything like 3 pages unless the title that I prepped, that I dreamed for, came up and it was perfect, and off I go. Apart from that, it is 2 to 2.5 pages. Stop. Your teacher clearly has never been an examiner. They've never had to spend the summer correcting pages. I have started correcting essays which have had a H1 at the start, and as it went on, they started a H1, and as it went on, it ended up being like a H4. It was just soul destroying to correct it because the Irish was fantastic at the start, but all they did was repeat themselves. Who can write 6 pages on like the education system in Ireland in Irish at 17? That's going to be of an epic standard. Doesn't make any sense. Is there some way to overcome the hurdle of the teacher says X, Y, Z, but the marking team says A, B, C, keeping the teacher happy, but also doing what we need to cater for the leaving cert? That is a personal choice that you have to make. Okay. As a parent, I have had to have the look at my children do their leaving certs and go, what are you doing that for? You don't need to do that. And they're like, but my teacher needs it. And I'm like, okay, well, you have 2 choices. You can do it because your teacher wants you and it's good learning in it. And there's, you're learning more Irish and you're using more in it. And that's great. Or you don't do it and you can face the consequences. Sometimes in my job, I have to do things I don't want to do. I find them pointless. But it has to be done. So that is a personal choice. Every choice you make has consequences. So all I can tell you is at the end, what you're going to need in the leaving certificate. Yeah, I'm sorry, Cian. I know what I advise you if you're my child, but that's not. I can't do that here. So talk to your parents. That's the best advice. Talk to your parents, see if they can between come up with something. How many pages would the maximum be for an Irish essay? There is no max. I have corrected 4 or 5 page 6-page essays. I corrected, believe me, it was 36 pages of a booklet essay. It went on forever and ever and ever. 36 pages. I thought I was going to cry. It was a disaster, and I corrected every single page. That person, I think they got like something like 33% or something. I can't remember. But so it was awful, and it was painful. And I spent hours reading it for them. So not really good. So the maximum is, there is no max. If you've got like stuff that's really good and really useful and you've learned it and you know it, then rock on. Absolutely. I will happily correct 7 pages as an examiner. I will happily correct 7 pages of beautiful stuff. But if you are repeating yourself, your points or your words in your essay, then it's not interesting. The minimum you need is 1 booklet page. Or sorry, 2 booklet pages, which is 1 foolscap page. However, it's technically, I am able to give you a H1 on 1 foolscap page. That's a very challenging thing to do. So we are talking about the ideal is between 2 and 2.5 pages. I'll show you here. I don't know, hopefully you can see it. All right. Can you see this? This is an essay that that a student gave me, and it is, where's my camera? It's not going to work. It is back to back, small writing, full page. That's it. Okay. She's got 2 pages, and that is it. That is as much as the essay content is, and perfect. The first thing I was able to say it was perfect. I'll read it tonight, not correct it for, but I was like, perfect length, straight off the bat. And all it is 1 page. Now it's short, right? It's small writing and it's neat. All right. But she hasn't gone all the way down to the bottom of the 2nd page. So for an average person, that'll be about 2.5 pages of a foolscap. Beautiful. That would be as much as I would recommend. So what I have here is I want you to just be really careful. One of the most important things to get high marks is no repetition. Your points must be relevant and on topic. They do not have to be surface or deep or meaningful. Make sure you have the key words: climate change, storms, sea levels raising, and animals are dying. Those kind of keywords, or key phrases. I'm worried about the condition of the planet. Make sure you have the ones that you're going to
keywords, the key phrases ready for the different topics teacher may ask you. Reuse the sentences that you've practiced. In 5th year, I personally would recommend for anybody in 5th year not to do around 400 words and build up offering a solution. I hate them. I put a solution into all my answers, but the government needs to step up and needs to do more work, and I'm going to put one into throughout my essay. No, it is not essential, and people do separate paragraphs with solution, and all they do is, what was that thing I said about? Don't repeat yourself. All they do is repeat themselves. So when people ask for a solution, no, I would not focus on solutions by any stretch. This essay here is on the core Slánta, and you can see there I have put words in yellow. See those yellow words? They are my keywords in relation to Slánta, to the health system. Do you see the length of that essay? That is a beautifully long enough essay and that will get you a H1. It is so beautiful, it will get you a H1. It's not long. It's very interesting. It's on point. You will notice I have not repeated myself. You will notice that my keywords are all slightly different, that I'm not talking about the hospital, the core Slánta. I don't say in Éireann. I say in Éireann, sa tír seo, Éireann, Ilan, sa stuff. I repeat nothing in my essays. Okay, because that's where you go wrong. So that's an intro, 2 conclusions, or 2 mid-paragraphs and a conclusion. Practice taking out those keywords on health and swapping them for, so instead of the health system, the education system, instead of doctors, teachers, instead of hospitals, schools, okay? Instead of the education system, you can talk about the learning process, the teaching system, just change it around constantly, okay? Yeah, so that is what I mean when I say get an essay that makes sense to you. Some of this will make sense, some of it won't. Get an essay that makes sense to you, pull out the keywords and put in other ones. Where can we find the notes from your class recording? I'm going to check an email that I got about that and I will answer. So where can you find the notes? Can I give notes for the Clús Tuiscint? Thanks for coming back. Let me just see what she said. Masterclass. They will be made available on the website, I believe. Okay, so have a look on the website. If there's any problems with that, just email help@instituteofeducation.ie and they will send them to you. Just say you're at Nuala. I'm the only Nuala. I'm always the only Nuala wherever I go. Nuala's 5th year masterclass, and if they could forward you on the notes. Where else? Where can we find the notes you're reading and the class recording? I have no idea about the recording. You'll have to ask help desk. I'm sure it'll be on the website, or you'll get a link or something. You got a link to this, so therefore you want to go back into this link and you can access the chat, and it'll be in the chat. At the end, I'll press finish recording, and it'll come up then in the chat box here a link to the video, so you should access it here. Tips for the Clús Tuiscint. Yes, don't listen to Radio na Gaeltachta. It will make you cry. They'll talk about seaweed and stuff and fish and everything. And it's a local radio station for local issues and matters. The accents are very strong. Okay, so I listen to it to hear it and to just get myself immersed in the Connemara accent. Even I don't find the topics that interesting. And I have to, so I think that it turns young people off the language. What I will say is the tape exam, the listening exam, the Clús Tuiscint, sorry, I'm really old. The Clús Tuiscint is the same every year. The same words, the same patterns, the same question styles, the same things come up. They talk about going to a concert. They talk about the problem of storms. They talk about what's going on in your village. It's the talk about school. They talk about the same things all the time. So it's listening, tuning your ear, and often is where you're going to get the time for that. Okay, how you're going to get those marks. Go to the, excuse me, go to the examinations website, examinations.ie, and instead of looking for the exam papers, go to the marking scheme. When you go into the marking scheme, the Irish marking scheme is horrific. Don't read it. But Control F will find it for you, find script, okay? And once you find the script, you can read as you listen and reading and listening at the same time. So I'm reading and I'm listening. I'm going to listen to that same piece again, read and listen, and then I'm going to close my eyes and just listen. Do I understand? And then I have my oh look, somebody sent a link. Fair play, thanks very much. Then read and listen, and then the third or fourth time, can I listen without needing to read? Do I understand what it's saying? Then look at go back to the script and go, what keywords do I not know? What did I not know? What do I need to look up? What do I need? And spend 5 minutes. Because remember, each little quid, they're only like 30 seconds long. So if I listen to that 4 times, that's only 2 minutes. And then what words do I need to look up? And what words was I not sure how to spell? And that's how I do that. And it's the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. For the SHRAP, how many would I recommend for a per box for a H1? I would recommend 8. But I'm talking about 8 sentences that are short, not 8 long-winded ones. Every verb is pretty much a sentence. You're very welcome. Anything else, guys? No? Was it of use? Thumbs up if you're happy. Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Delighted. Great. Okay. It's hard to tell because the videos now, obviously, in their normal classes, you are videos on if you choose, and you get to fully interact and ask questions. And so it's just a slightly different. What would be the best way to memorize poetry answers? Well, you've got your same introduction all the time. That's really handy. And then you have to say, it's about create a map, a mind map, and go, well, that's the order of the poem. So the lion was free, and now he's in a cage. The lion was happy, and now he's sad. The lion was running around, now he's lying down. Okay, can I say those sentences? What's logical about it? What fancy words do I want to get in? Job done. Do I recommend learning exam answers or learning vocab to apply to answers? I recommend practicing sentences and ensuring that you know them, you understand them, and are able to tweak them, and then can use them across the board in different poems, plays, stories, and pieces of work. I don't recommend learning off any paragraphs in full entities, because you can't tweak it, you can't edit it, and then it's of no value to you elsewhere. So you just got an awful lot of learning. It's better to understand and reuse than to learn off big long paragraphs that you can't use again. For H1 oral, what are the things we can do to the Cora to meet that mark, to get in? You're talking about the conversation during the Cora. It is eye contact. It is smiling at the examiner. It's having a bit of conversation, genuine conversation. It is having something to say on every topic, or not every topic, but if your topic comes up, you're not able to answer it, then be careful about study clicks. I hate to say it. It'll be fine for your oral exam. Do not use study clicks for any written work. The Irish in it is full of grammar mistakes. It is the bone of contention. It is not written by teachers. Okay, I can get a H1 in an exam because the gods have been with me that day. That doesn't mean my standard is good enough to teach other people. So be really careful about that. I know it's fantastic for lots of other subjects, but the grammar is, yeah, I don't want to talk about it. So just be Cormac Wishin. But it's great for the SHRAP picture. I'm sure it's fine for the oral. I'm sure it's fine for the oral exam, but the written stuff has to be specifically correct. Yeah, so conversation, have your blurbs, and then be able to handle those curveball questions like, if you bring something up, I'm going to talk about it. So practice just those small questions. Immer to Pell Arer Dimmer me. I might do dollar lane there by me. Study click SHRAP picture of like 4 sentences per picture. Yeah, that's not going to get you the full marks, which is why study clicks is written by students and not teachers. Okay, so that's why you got to be careful about it. But where would I get sentences from it? Okay, the books, they're all over the place. You don't have to be fancy. You just have to brainstorm with somebody that you like, that's got a good brain in their head and going to engage with you and go, you know, Hussie she had a kind to the core. They started yapping and chatting. Which rap pictures can I put that in? I put them in these 10. Okay. Go to ordinary level books. Take the information out of the ordinary level books. It's ridiculous. It's the same exam, but they make the ordinary level trap picture sentences accessible and they make the honours ones impossible, but it's the same exam. So do the honours one or do the ordinary level ones, build up, build up, build up, build up. If you can do 4 per box today, and then you add another one tomorrow, that's 5. And then you add another one, it's all about start getting 4 right and add in a 5th. And then the next time, add in another one. All right. It's easy to go up by 1% a time. You have time to get up to that up to those top marks. Any student that is expecting a H1 in 5th year, it's a skill set for the Léamh Hiscinti. Like I won't really touch the Léamh Hiscinti with 5th years because you're not ready for them. You need to be ready for the end of June. Like if you're able to get a H1 in October in 5th year on Gavin, all that tells me is you've learned off the notes. Doesn't mean you've built up the skill set to be able to learn Irish or deal with it. So yeah, it's the journey where we're getting there. At the moment, I teach about 6 sentences per picture. What can I do to improve my grade? Your best thing right now is to nail down those 6 sentences. Absolutely know that trap picture in and out of the back of your hand. When you know that trap picture at the back of your hand, then add in simple sentences. Simple sentences. Bhí siad a cainte sa córa. Bhain siad taitneamh as an lá. Atmosphere electric a bhí ann. Deach sé timpeall na háite. He looked around the place. Anything like that, just to difficulty is not important. Fancy is not important in the trap picture. It is telling the most long-winded, boring story that you can drag it out as much as you can. Does the level of difficulty on the shrat sentence matter? I just said just length. Just keep talking. Not really not quality, highfalutin, baseline stuff you learned in 2nd class. Job done. Will you get a H2 in the shrat with phrases that everyone else says? Yep. You do not have to stand out from the crowd from the shrat picture at all. You can just regurgitate whatever you like. They can be the exact same as everybody else. Not so much for the essays, not so much for the essays. No. Gavin, the poems and the prose and the Antreal, exact same as everybody else. The Léamh Hiscinti, exact same as everybody else. Strap picture, exact same as everybody else. Your oral exam, no. And your essay, no. They have to be different. Anything else, guys? Do you need quotes for Antreal? No. You don't need quotes anywhere at any place at the paper. However, many teachers love to make you do tests on them and you enjoy those tests, but you don't need to worry about them. You're not getting any extra marks on a quote from me. Have you made an interesting point? Have you told me what I want to hear? Not what I want to hear, what the paper, the question is asked. Have you answered that question? And then that's it. So no, you don't need any quotes for Antreal. You're welcome to them. But remember, I have been teaching this literally for 28 years. Therefore, I know every full stop, comma, and everything else in Antreal. So you can't make a mistake on it. So either learn them or don't. If in doubt, leave it out. Anything else, guys? Do. Do you get deducted marks in the Léamh Hiscinti if you write sentences from it? Oh, great question. Question 1 to 5 in the Léamh Hiscinti must be word for word. Do not change a thing. Nothing. Not a full stop, not a comma, nothing. Change nothing. Question 6B. You may not use anything from the passage, but you need to take the information from the passage. So what does that mean? What it means is, it might ask you about the traits of, I was looking at the one the other day, it's traits of Steve Jobs. And so you will say, so Steve Jobs really, really clever. So then I will say, and why is he clever? I have to find information, 2 traits about Steve Jobs. So my answer is going to be Steve Jobs is really determined. And I have to look for evidence from the passage that he's determined. So somewhere along it says something along the lines of he established a company, a computer company with his friend Steve Wozniak, which was called Next. He established a company. So it says Vonnig sé Cólacht. Instead of Vonnig sé Cólacht, I'm going to change that to Hussy sé Gnólacht. He started a business. Instead of he established a company, he started a business. So I'm tweaking and changing everything to say, I understand the gist of this sentence and I'm using different words. Okay, 6b must be rephrased. Do not quote 6b. Do not tell me, as it says in the passage, and stick in a quote. You lose marks if you put in a quote for 6b. 6b is only in your own words. You may not use information from the passage. Question 1 to 5 is exactly word for word, copy and paste. Don't change a thing. Okay, guys, we're done. Thanks a million for coming. I hope it's of help. I hope you found it of use. You're very welcome. I do classes here all the time, so if you want to join in, we love to have you. Yes, have a great summer. Best luck in the exams. Have a great summer. Good night, live. Míle buíochas as bhur nám agus bhur nám. Slán.